call to order this November 20th meeting of the Public Safety Committee. We have a roll call, please.
Chairman Plefka?
Here.
Alderwoman Sims? Here. Alderman Lockmiller?
Here.
Alderwoman Harder? Here. All members present.
Item 2 on the agenda is the approval or amendment to the agenda. Does anybody on the committee have an interest in either taking something off or adding something to this night's agenda? Seeing none, the agenda will stand as submitted. Item 3 are citizen comments. If there's anybody here in the audience tonight or online who wishes to address this committee with regard to any issue of public safety, you'll be given up to 3 minutes. Please identify yourself and your address.
There are no members online.
Thank you. I declare citizen comments closed and move on to number 4. As chairman, I do not have a report tonight. Alderwoman Sims?
No report.
Thank you. Alderman Lockmiller? No report. Thank you. Alderwoman Harder?
Yes, I do.
Excellent.
I'm requesting a traffic study to determine what course of action is needed for North Swan Circle, East Swan Circle from 1613 to 1651. I don't know if it needs a stop sign or speed bumps or just more police patrol.
So can we take that up during the Public Works
Yeah.
Department's report?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Great. Anything else?
That's it.
Okay. Wonderful. Perfect. Madam City Administrator?
No report.
Thank you very much. Department reports, first from our Chief of Police.
Good evening. The first thing I was going to talk about was our crime report. We continue to be down in crime consistently for months now in Brentwood compared to last year and previous years. In particular, on that note, our nighttime car crime has been very low. We've had one incident in the last 3 weeks, so not really sure. I've told you this before. I'm not exactly sure all of the factors that contribute to that. But certainly one of them is the fact that the city of St. Louis has a different prosecutor, and there's more people being incarcerated for these types of crimes. I think that's helped. There are other factors as well, but that piece of our crime picture has really slowed down this year. There were a couple of incidents in the last couple of weeks I was going to mention. One was on November 5th. You may have heard about this in the news. We had a man that was missing from Van Markway Apartments, was found in the creek, and then he actually ended up down in Shrewsbury. That man was, when he was recovered, his core temp was around 77 degrees, so he was in big trouble when he was found. As last I heard, he was still alive, but he was missing from our apartment complex down there in Van Markway. There was nothing suspicious about that. Not exactly sure how he got there. He had some personal issues. So the other thing that I was going to mention was another one that we'd seen on the news was the Miriam's Shop burglary that you may have seen. They had a fundraiser, about $10,000 in cash raised, and someone stole their money. As it turns out, we have a suspect out wanted on that case who was there as an employee during the fundraiser. This guy's got a prior criminal history. He also had a felony warrant out for his arrest. At this point, we are looking for him. We have not been able to find him, but there was no forced entry. This was a theft more than anything else. So I think the news actually reported it as a robbery. So it was not force used. There was no weapon used or anything like that. A couple other items I was going to discuss. The traffic detail that all of you know has been going on now for weeks with Officer Brown. London's up to 137 summons issued, 60 warnings issued, and 9 parking summons issued. So he continues to do a great job each day. He's probably going to be targeted over on Swan here in the next couple days. So you'll see him over there as well. Couple weeks ago, you know that Officer Jamie Clark was injured in an arrest attempt of a guy over by Total Wine. The doctors determined that Jamie had a deviated septum and she had a mild concussion, so she's still on light duty. She's getting better. She has to have her nose operated on, but we hope that she'll be back in about 3 weeks or so. The other thing that I was going to mention with regard to people out of the police department, Sergeant Ben Drexel received a disability pension based on a nerve disorder that I think all of you heard about with Ben. Um, I told him when he left, he was a really good cop, but a better person, and he's a big loss. So we are in a hiring process. We do have some applicants that are coming in thus far, and we'll have to obviously vet them and pick out the best person. So it's extremely competitive environment. Almost all of the cities around us are looking for officers. Certainly the bigger departments, county and city, are really looking for officers as city's down almost 300 people. St. Louis County Police Department, last time I heard, was also considerably short. So the pool of officers for all of the St. Louis area is very limited. The new weapon purchase that was on the consent agenda on your board meeting last week, just to kind of give you an update on that, we're moving forward with the purchase of the weapons, and we hope that in January they'll be delivered. And from there, we'll start our training process. We already have two officers, two of our range officers that are certified in that weapon. They'll do a train-the-trainer, and then we'll move forward from there and train the officers and do the transition. I think that in about March, maybe April, we should be staffed with those weapons at that point. And again, those guns are all purchased out of our asset forfeiture account. That's all I have. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you if I can.
Questions from the committee? I have just one. Do you where are you at in terms of deploying the additional flock cameras? What's the timeline on that?
We have one left to deploy, and there's some logistical issues. We always have logistical issues getting these things in, whether it's St. Louis County, MoDOT, the electric company. It just depends. We have one left to deploy.
Okay, thank you.
That will make a total of 10.
Chief, I'm just passing this along because I think I sent you an email on it. I've gotten a complaint again about these kids on e-bikes and mini bikes
Right.
riding around, and none of them have lights on them or anything like that. And they're around.
Was there an area on it, sir?
Yeah, I think it's usually around high school and Litzinger
Okay.
in that area. So, I don't know if we have anything on the books to regulate them, but they do not have lights, and sometimes they don't have helmets.
So obviously it's in the evening because it's dark.
Well, during the day too, it looks like either they'll use the street or they'll use the sidewalk, and people are trying to get by on the sidewalk.
Right.
That's one of the complaints I've gotten.
Okay.
So they just seem to be boys being boys with their new toys.
We'll put a note in the desk book for you again.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Chief?
Good evening. I have a brief report here and then some exciting news under new business we'll get to. I'll start with an equipment update, and I touched on this at last month's meeting, but I want to reiterate because we're trying to keep this ball rolling. It is important. Just the vehicle situation and making purchases still with fire apparatus and ambulances are still very complicated and takes an extended period of time. So we intend after the first of the year to present and for the city to sign an agreement to purchase a new ambulance, which we wouldn't receive until 2027. We would get our place in line for it to be built and secure pricing by doing so. Some of our neighbors have done this process in 2024 to secure the pricing point, essentially. So we're going to work on that after the first of the year, but I just wanted this committee to understand that those are some of the logistics to even get a new ambulance right now. And our fire engine is still slated for January of 2026. So we continue to wait in that process. We recently, just as recent as last week, completed all of our annual certification testing, which means for the fire pumps, our SCBAs, our ladders, all of this equipment for us to remain compliant with NFPA standards for the year. It's done annually. We completed that last week. Some minor repairs to some ladders, but other than that, everything passed well, so we're excited. The grant update, we'll discuss that under new business, tremendous news there. I want to give a brief update on the flood events from November 5th. You heard the mayor give his report Monday evening. This is similar. Our crews began their first call at 1:27 a.m. That was a lightning strike in Glendale. And frankly, had that lightning strike occurred 1 hour later, most of those units would not have been able to make it there because of the flood waters. So for the owners of the home, it was a kind of a blessing that it happened at that time frame. On the way back from that call is when they ran the first flood call. And then we began running one after another after another. I think it's important to state that during the nighttime hours, approximately 3:30 till around 5:30 in the morning, we were concentrating on evacuating employees in the industrial park, industrial areas. People there working through the night didn't know that the waters had risen, so they were still inside. Our crews even assisted putting up some flood doors at some of the businesses before their employees. We got them out by boat, so to save their properties from some damage. So we did a little bit of prevention with that as well. This takes a lot of coordinated effort. The emergency manager, the director of emergency management for St. Louis County was on the news following that, and she said quite well, when events like this happen, these municipal boundaries have to disappear. We have to work in a coordinated manner to address the emergencies because the calls come in and it takes the same resources no matter where the emergency is. And there's only so many resources to respond to these calls. So with that, we set up an area command post at our fire station and we coordinated calls for this entire region. The backup team of swiftwater boats came from St. Charles County, and before they even arrived to the staging area, we sent them on a mission and they performed a rescue off of McKnight Road. It was just before daybreak. Somebody entered the waters from the apartment complex and they were in swiftwater, and they successfully rescued them. So again, just coordination and work with our partners. We worked with a lot of folks on this incident. Again, with very few hurdles, and I think unfortunately it's because of the experience this area has had and the success that we've gained from other responses. We did not respond to flood calls on Manchester between Dorothy and Hanley. And the purchase of the buildings, those would have been buildings we would have had to search, and they're off. They no longer exist, so that is it helps us be quicker to respond to other areas. Have any questions on the flood events before okay. I'll finish with our hiring process. We did extend a conditional offer to a gentleman. He is currently in the fire academy. Due to that and him following up with pre-employment physical, psychiatric evaluation and so forth, he will get a start date after January 1st. So we'll give him time to complete those. And then immediately after the new year, we will start another hiring process because we anticipate at least one more opening in the month of January. That's all I had for a department update.
I do have a question about the vehicle, actually. So do you know how many miles are on the ambulance now?
So that is a 2012 ambulance that we'd be looking to replace. I don't know the mileage off the top of my head. I'm ballparking at around 90,000 miles.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how many miles annually does it typically?
I would have to look at our maintenance records.
Had it since 2012?
Yes.
Okay.
So we have two ambulances. We have the 2021 that we actually purchased, and it's a 2020. And then the reserve ambulance, as we call it, it's a 2012 model.
So what you're seeking to replace in 27 is the reserve current?
Correct. The 2012 ambulance. Correct.
Would that then put the 2021 ambulance into reserve?
Correct. The ambulance cycle is a 7-year rotation, and the fire engines are a 10-year rotation from frontline to reserve.
How many miles are on the 2021? Do you know?
I do not know. I will look that up before I give you my
I
next
was just
report.
curious more than anything else.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Anybody else? Thank you, Chief.
Okay, just have a bunch of miscellaneous project updates. So starting with the top, the Brentwood Boulevard at the UP Railroad, as we've already discussed previously, there was a flood. So that swept away some of those UP Railroad signals, you know, with the crossing arms. It sheared them off the base. UP's been out there, they've replaced them. If you go by there now, they're actually mounted again. They're looking at December 10th through the 11th to get everything coordinated and switched over with the county. So hopefully if that falls into place by December 11th and beyond, we'll have signals, knock on wood, hopefully no more floods. And then there was an area of Russell as well as Brazos that we had to clean up after that flood. And there's still a little bit of debris today we picked up, and that should be it. Lewis Avenue, the sewers were replaced or repaired rather, and then we did replace a section of asphalt. So Lewis, just north of the Circle K, that's back to normal. You know, there was a hole there for the excavation for the sewer. 2217 Park Ridge, still waiting for Gonzalez or MSD to let us know when the permit's ready. We don't have that yet. I might just reach out to MSD. I know that they keep track of everything from the time it's logged in to the time it's approved. So it's been there for quite some time and hasn't moved. And then High School Drive at Powell. From the previous meeting, we did put some speed cushions in just north of Powell. That's a long block. What I did do was I ran the data collector for about a 10-day period as well. So that's in your packet. So I know if you kind of glean through that, the before and after, what it basically shows is, you know, your daily counts didn't really drop. They're about the same. You know, in some instances, when we put them in on Pine, you saw the traffic volume go down, which probably means they just shifted their, you know, over to White or some other street. Here, I didn't really notice that. So it's still a little over 1,100 vehicles per day. You know, a little bit more on some weekends, or about the same, you know, about the same between weekend and weekday. And then if you look at the speed limit, the 80th or 85th percentile, 50th percentile, it's gone down just a little bit since the speed cushions were in. The bigger takeaway that I got was when you look at the 5 mile per hour increments. So when I did that for the 10-day period, like people going 30 to 34, there's like 1195 as far as vehicles after the cushions. Before it was 1,672. So you had like 13.6% before the cushions and now 9.4. So it's gotten better. Same thing each category after that. So 35 to 39, you had 292. That's dropped down to 95. So, you know, that went from 2.4% to 0.7, but in reality, it meant like you lost like 200 vehicles that were doing that speed, which is good. And then 45 to 49, there was only one with the after effect and 11 before. And then you had these two weird outliers before the cushions, 50 to 54, one person, and then 60 to 64, one. So it's improved. What I don't know is if I put another set like to the south of there, if it would further reduce it and by how much. You know, we can run the collector further south to see what that does, you know, as far as the actual conditions. But if you wanted to, you know, we could look at doing that first and then possibly coming back for a second set, or, you know, I know the police said that it's gotten better.
I really think, I mean, I appreciate what you've done here as far as getting that in so quickly, but it really needs to be south of Powell. I mean, we always stick these in the middle of the block.
Right.
Right now where the location is, you're about 50, 75 feet from the intersection of Madge and Litzinger. I know that area south of Powell is going to be a wider street there, and we've never done one that wide. But that's where the data collector was put.
Well, the data collector is put in the same spot, so, yeah.
But it was put in around 2627 high school.
It's actually the same corner. It's Powell, the northeast corner, just because they wanted to stay consistent. The request came from that address, the 2627.
Okay, because it says on the chart that the locator's 2627 high school.
Yeah, that's just the way it's put in there, just from the request, but the actual physical GPS is, the coordinate that it's at is that northeast corner.
Once again, I think it needs to be more in the middle of the block. It needs to be south of Powell. I would say when we get that other section in, that I believe you said you've ordered,
Yeah,
that I would just take up what we've already put down, add that section to it, and move it south of Powell.
yeah, I was thinking you'd put two, only because when we go with longer blocks, like Pine, between like High School and Brentwood Boulevard, one doesn't do anything. If I just put one set to the south, then you're gonna get speeds going over whatever between Powell and, Madge.
I just think that's a lot of extra material that could be used
Yeah.
elsewhere. You just get it centered in that block south of Powell with another cushion, so you have a fourth cushion to make that span, that width of Powell, or I'm sorry,
Yeah.
high school.
I think we can do it cheaper than a fourth one, though. I figured you'd probably put a bollard on either side, because the fourth went from 5,000 to 7,000. I wouldn't spend 2,000 on two barricades, or just a, bollard mounted between the gutter and the edge of that system.
And that
I would
wider-
still do the three, and it would be a wider gap between the outer and the curb, but I can fill that gap with something else. Just the fourth, and you're gonna have more holes. You've already got 120 holes with three. I'd be adding, what is it, 36 more holes with another group. I just don't like all the holes. I would not suggest moving the one from the north to the south, because then you've got the holes. We can fill them.
Up closer to,
Yeah, basically between Powell and Madge.
close to where the island separates it.
No, it'd be probably just south of where you see Powell.
Yeah.
That 2627 is about second house south of Powell. Because because of the width of the street, that's where we get the majority of the speeds. Right there, coming east, or coming north or south. Whatever you suggest.
Yeah, what would the first step be? You sort of described it a minute ago. Would it be to reset that?
We would just mount the new set that comes in. I'm getting a quote for two more to put in stock for 2025, but the one that's on its way, you could put the three panels, just like you see to the north of there, to the south of there, and then if that gap's too big, I figure we'd fill it with something, even if it's just one of those orange Jersey barriers like we got at the temporary parking lot.
Is this enough direction from, do you need something formal, Bola? Do we have?
No,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, if you want us to put it in, I just thought it's like, well, there's some reduction. I don't know you're gonna get that much more compliance putting that one in, but we'll certainly record the information.
Okay.
I think it'll help, but, to say that there's gonna be no speeders, that would not be accurate. Especially bigger trucks, it's only a 3-inch rise. If it's, monster truck, it'll go right over and not feel anything, but.
By doing that, you'll still be able to get that area where the ambulance and fire truck can get through.
Yes, that was my biggest thing why I wanted to stick with the 3, because if I go with the 4, it's gonna be kind of confusing for them what you're aiming for. It's like the middle one and the right one, or the middle one and left one, depends on which direction you're coming from. I'm like, well, I would keep it the same configuration, just fill in the void space on the sides, if you need to at all, because it may only be like 5 feet, and, I don't know what car would squeeze through a 5-foot,
That part.
it'd be a clown car or
For
something.
my clarification, are you putting in another speed cushion?
I would put in one there, just because it's a long stretch between Madge and Manchester.
And you have the data collector and you have the signatures of the residents close to that?
The resident had already
Already,
sent
okay,
that for that
then
one,
we're good.
yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Bola. Yeah, do you want to?
I'd like to request a traffic study between 1613 and 1651 East Swan. I think you got the video of the cars speeding by, and a lot of residents can't pull out of their spot. So I don't know what the course of action would be, if it would be a stop sign, speed cushions, or more police patrol. I don't know. It just,
Yeah, because I drove through there. It's, I don't know why people would speed, only because it's both a horizontal curve and a vertical curve. So when you're kind of in the middle, you know,
that's just the.
you
where I
can't
got-
see if
yeah.
you're the motorist or driver, but I know it's long. It's like a little over 3/10 of a mile from like Brentwood to high school. So if you put it in the middle, again, it would be one of those, if you did cushions, it would have to be multiple sets.
Or maybe a stop sign to slow people down.
I know stop signs are not considered traffic calming per MUTCD. The one thing I did think about, I looked it up before the meeting, was, I just gotta find it here. There's, we've got them around town. I'm sure you've seen them. I know it's on, several streets, including Rosalie, which would be like your speed limit, radar-enabled speed limit sign that would flash your speed. I don't know if that would calm people. I mean, you know, we would post the speed of 20, because that's what it is,
Right.
and then their speed. We've got it on McKnight, you know, like near, what would it be, Sonora. Those are cheaper than speed cushions. They're like 3,500 to 4,000.
I don't think we need a speed cushion. I mean, you saw the video that was sent, so.
Right. The speed limit sign at least can be utilized anywhere. You just put it on a post, you know, so if you got bored with it there, you could take it and put it somewhere else.
Would you run the data collection before you would make that kind of a recommendation?
Yeah, if the committee wants, we've got one charged up, I can just find, I drove through there and saw there's a couple utility poles I can mount it to, and then run it for like a 10-day period and
Okay.
bring the information back.
Can we have somebody make a motion? Do you want to make a motion for that?
Yeah, I would like a motion for the traffic study on East Swan.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
I'm in support of it, but don't we have a traffic calming toolkit?
And so the first step would be
Body makes a request for a traffic study?
this right, it would be in a written,
Right.
different than this, it'd be in a written
She did,
form.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing we're missing are the signatures, but it's unique in the sense it's Brentwood Forest. I mean, we could, if the data vet's out, then you would need to collect the signatures from the 2/3 within that affected area. Right,
Or we can talk to the board.
Right.
You all made me sit through the creation of that traffic calming toolkit. And then I just want to, fair is fair that it's followed, that's all. Rather
Yeah.
than, like
We will need to communicate that
jumping
to
over those.
the Brentwood Forest
those
Board and
elements.
their CPM.
right.
Right.
CPM.
And then I just know that we've had so many people have complimented or have so pleased with the police department pulling over speeders. So maybe that will slow people down too, because they know.
Yeah, that's a long stretch there. That, you know, like I said, it's more than a quarter mile. so I
I'm
mean,
getting emails and they're saying, they pulled over 5, they put, we're up to 7, I mean, they're really excited that, because they're just flying down that street. So, I mean, I'm sure the people being pulled over aren't as happy, but everybody else is.
All those in favor, any further discussion? All those in favor of the traffic data collection at that location signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Couple other things, Rosalie at Swim Club. That one we had actually, painted those crosswalks better. We did order signs. They're sitting in the shop. We called in the locates. We just need to pop the posts in the ground and then put those up. But basically, they're a skinny yellow rectangle with the pedestrian walking saying yield, and those are solar powered and they flash. So we'll be putting those up. And then the solar light at York, I thought we'd already trimmed it. I spoke with the arborist. He said it's on the pruning list. What I don't know is if that's really going to help anything. That's the one that's there at York and Middlesex. I did pull data from it today, and it shows that it's been working. There was like one day where it didn't work for very long because it's like 10 or 20 kilowatt hours of charge to last a day. And there was one day where it didn't get it, so then it didn't work but a fraction of the time. But today it was showing it had like 50 kilowatt hours already charged, and that was like at 2 in the afternoon. So I figured, well, it should come on. If it doesn't, then there might be an issue. And then one of the trustees said that York Hills, the ones in the islands weren't coming on, but I noticed the one furthest east of McKnight, there's 3 big bushes around it, and I think those, when I was standing there, you could see the shadow on the collector, so I don't know who would trim that, if it's the trustees.
Yeah, the trustees would do that. Yeah,
And that one
I
might
can
be
just tell you
getting a
that-
weak battery
that's
too,
being handled, yeah.
because it was put in, I want to say in 19, so I might just try 2 new 12-volt batteries, because that'd be a pretty simple solution, because I can see where the voltage is when you do the history. It's like dropping. It's not as great as it was like a few months ago.
There's a plan to relocate the trees around both of those lights
Okay.
in York Hills. And once they get done with that, then if there's still a problem, they'll,
Yeah, and the one at York and Middlesex, if you had an alternate location, we would just need permission to put a base somewhere else, and it's not like you couldn't use that light again. You would just relocate it elsewhere. Because I know the arborist said the oak trees are blocking it quite a bit.
yeah, I think the pruning is gonna be enough, to be honest. I really
Okay.
do. So,
Yeah, and the fact that the leaves, I know the oaks tend to keep the leaves a little longer, I think, because I saw quite a few leaves today. I'm like, well, when they fall, it should be a little bit better. And then the last thing, which isn't on here, is the panic bar for that door. You know, we spoke about that as part of safety improvements. So I've got a locksmith coming the week of December 2nd to switch that out, and it'll have a panic
Terrific.
bar. So,
thank you. Any
That's
other questions from the committee? Thank you very much.
yep, thanks.
Our next item, number 7, is the consent agenda. Has everybody had a chance to review the meeting minutes, which constitutes the sum of our consent agenda? If there are no changes to be offered, do we have to have a motion to adopt it, or can I just adopt it as submitted? Okay, so by acclamation, you mean put it to a vote for like a yay or nay, or no, just by
I
acclamation?
just do recommend, I mean, I.
Right.
So
Okay.
are you-
So by acclamation, I will say that the meeting minutes on the consent agenda are approved. We have no old business under section 8. Under new business, we do have the funding for the cardiac units.
Yes, thank you. I have a good update. The city applied for additional ARPA funds in October. This was specific from the Department of Health and Senior Services, which had not offered this to EMS providers previous years. So this was a one-time opportunity. We applied. We did receive notice of award on Election Day. Not all agencies were awarded based off their application, so we are fortunate to be in this position. The good news for this, they're cardiac monitors, they have a life cycle. We have them planned for future purchases, so the 5-year CIP will actually be reflected to shift those out for even further years. This does move up the purchase, but at the assistance of the state offering the grant money. Our intent, Alderwoman Sims, we will bring this to Ways and Means, but all of this all transactions, purchase and reimbursement, will occur in the 25 budget, which is not currently mapped that way. We will request an amendment for that to occur. So full transparency, that is the action, because we didn't know if we were going to get this or not.
Do I read it correctly to say that it's a 90-10 split between our purchasing and the federal government from the grant?
That is correct, and we've already made our 10% match.
That's what I was
based
gonna
off of a prior purchase that they're allowing us to use.
Very good.
They indicated our application would reflect if there was any variance in that, and they made no changes to our application. They approved it as submitted.
So seeing all that or hearing all that, can I get a motion to enter into an agreement with the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services for the funding of a grant to purchase cardiac monitors?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Chairman Plufka?
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims?
Yes.
Alderwoman Lockmiller, Alderman Lockmiller? Sorry? Alderwoman Harder? Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chief. Our last item on the agenda are citizen comments, another opportunity for anybody who is listening to us online or is here to approach. You'll be given up to 3 minutes to address us on any topic involving public safety.
I'm Larissa Stone. I'm the 2627 High School Drive on the speed cushions. I just want to be clear. So are we installing the second set? Is that the plan? Okay.
Is it a second set or a fourth?
Second
Okay.
set are on order.
Okay. So that'll be, okay. I just wanted to make sure. And I don't know if the traffic study stuff like costs to move, because I think, Dan, when you and I talked, it's catching people right at Powell. I would just be curious how like fast people are flying off Manchester if you shot it more south, and what the second set did. Now, if it costs money and we're already doing anyway, irrelevant. I wouldn't do it, but I would just be curious if it's easily moved and it's not a cost, to just see what it would do before and after if you collected the information a little bit more south towards Manchester. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Is there anybody else? Is there anybody online? I'll declare the citizen comments closed, and seeing no additional items on the agenda, I declare this meeting adjourned.